afternoon, and welcome to Revenue Marketing Television. I'm your host, Jeff Pedowitz. This is the CMO Insight Series, and today we have as our guest, Ken Robinson, Chief Marketing Officer of ProSites. Ken, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeff. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks. So I've had a chance to work with you over the years in a couple different opportunities. Tell me a little bit about ProSites and some of the main challenges that you're facing there.
Yeah, ProSites is actually an interesting business. On the surface of what we do is we develop website designs or offer website design and then online marketing services. And our target audience is professional services. And more specifically, it's people in the medical, dental, veterinary, and then also in the financial services space. And so as you can imagine, it's people that are doing your taxes or cleaning your teeth, and that's their area of expertise. Website design and online marketing, whether it's paid search or SEO or social media engagement, really didn't go to school for that, and that's not the core of their business. And usually the people in their office, that's not their core expertise either. But as you would imagine, in those industries and those businesses, they need to drive demand, need to drive awareness, and retain clients. It's a common, challenge and concern and focus for a lot of businesses. And for them, because they don't have the expertise in-house, they usually are looking to outsource those services. They want to make sure they're maximizing the return on those investments and really, delivering a great user experience from an online marketing perspective to their patients or to their clients. So they turn to us to do that.
Okay.
So we have about 15,000 clients that we deliver those services to. So we market the suite of services under the ProSites brand, but then we also have a parallel brand called CPA Site Solutions. So our corporate brand is ProSites, but we do business under those both of those individual brand mastheads.
Okay. So as you progress through the years, how are you seeing the role of marketing change? Do you find that you're having to run things more like a business today than you were, say, a few years ago?
Yeah, I think that's a common challenge point. Certainly early, if you go back 5, 7, maybe even as much as 10 years for marketers to really think about marketing as a critical or a key component of any business. I joke with your counterpart, Debbie, that marketing historically has always been thought about as sort of pens and mugs and shirts at trade shows, and really never been thought about as a revenue generating component of any business. But I think the mindset today, and we certainly see this in articles that have been published and trade shows and other industry events that we go to, marketing today is very much a revenue focused, metrics driven organization. And I think that really supports a focus of, thinking about marketing as a business. I know for us, in my specific instance in our company, we really do think about marketing as a business in the sense that we have inputs, we have a process, and then we have a series of outputs, and we're constantly looking to measure and optimize the outputs given a finite amount of resources that are available to us. So we are thinking about cost, we are thinking about revenue, and we're thinking about overall profitability, and that's something that cascades down from the board to the leadership team through every function within the organization, and marketing very much so, given the budget that's been afforded to us to go and drive our business.
Speaking of those things, then what are you being specifically held accountable for at your level, and then what are you holding your team accountable for?
For a long time, not just within this organization, I've always looked to benchmark marketing's performance based on really two very simple metrics. One is pipeline growth, and the second is closed business. And part of that is it's very measurable. And probably as importantly, that type of a focus and benchmarks and just the language that's used to talk about marketing's contribution back to the business in those two forms draws very, very tight alignment with the sales organization, because those are the terms that they think in. How am I doing in terms of building my pipeline? How am I doing in terms of closing business? What am I doing to relieve quota? And where is my focus area, and where am I focusing my time and attention? So that's the way that I, in coming into this organization, look to benchmark marketing's performance, pipeline growth, close one business. And when we think about how does that cascade down through the marketing organization, that type of a lexicon or KPIs, if you will, that's on the tips of the tongues of everybody on my team, whether they're in demand gen, marketing operations, content marketing, product marketing. They know those are the two, if you will, yardsticks that we are going to hold ourselves accountable to, and that's where the company's going to hold marketing accountable to. We have other diagnostic KPIs to ensure that we're moving in the right direction with those two benchmarks, and those are equally important to us as marketers, but we sort of keep that, if you will, as a part of our marketing lexicon. So we talk about conversion rates, we talk about MQL funnel, velocity, things like that. Those are, terms, if you will, or benchmarks that we use to determine if we're moving in the right direction. But pipeline growth, close win business, that's how we're measuring marketing's impact on the business.
Great. So as you're building this culture, what type of people are you hiring for now? And what skills are you looking for versus, say, what you might have needed a few years back?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been with the organization since the 15th of October, and I inherited two great people. And one was doing trade shows and events for us, and then the other person was doing kind of PR, and I guess what I'd consider as more corporate marketing. So what attracted me to this position was the ability to build a team. And the blueprint for the team build out is actually very much aligned with what the Pedowitz Group had put forward probably about a year ago in terms of what does a revenue-driven, metrics kind of focused marketing organization, what's a contemporary revenue marketing organization look like today? Which I thought great details and great examples and really aligned with kind of my thinking at the time. And so that's, if you will, a blueprint that I've forwarded today. So the places that I filled in marketing operations. It was a relatively new hire for us. I've got demand generation that we've plugged in. Demand generation for us is the only position where it's kind of market specific or role specific focus, and that's largely because on the ProSite side of the business, we're focused on dental, medical, veterinary, that type of a buyer. On our CPA site solutions, it's very much accounting or tax preparation focused. So completely different buyer, buying cycles, buyer personas, channels of engagement. So they are aligned with this very specific industries. Everybody else on my team, whether it's content marketing, events, marketing operations, product marketing, really serves both lines of business. So I guess maybe stated a little bit more simply, I have a sort of a service-based layer within the marketing organization, and then I have some industry-specific focused roles. But everybody is held accountable to very similar metrics we just talked about: pipeline growth, close won business. But we do have some specialization and then some industry alignment on the team. What I'm really hiring for today is one, best in class in terms of background and experience. So we're certainly looking for people that can do the job that we are asking them to do. But I'm also finding that really cultural fit and cultural alignment is, in some ways, almost as equally important. I've gotten to the point where I'm fully staffed, and so as I'm thinking about bringing new people onto the team, I'm thinking about the cultural grade point average, and are those people adding to that, or at least helping to maintain some level of neutrality around
those team dynamics. They're so important, and especially as you build your culture over time, getting people that fit.
Yeah, it's hugely important for us because we all work remotely. We're dual headquartered in San Diego and then also Vermont, but the totality of my team works across the United States, Chicago and San Diego and LA and Vermont and Connecticut. And so really, finding the right team culture and the right cultural DNA to support that type of remote or kind of distributed team structures and hugely important. We need people that can work autonomously, but yet still, very much contribute to a team-oriented culture.
Great. So tell me a little bit more about some of the processes that you're working on now as you start to get your team in place. What are you focusing on that's going to get you to the next level?
I'm very, very fortunate. One of the things is we are thinking about team culture is finding people that are kind of process driven. And I've been very fortunate to find people that very much, like process. If process is not there, they document the initial process and look to, for ways to improve that. From a technology perspective, one of the ways we're sort of maintaining effectiveness and efficiency from a process standpoint is we use a technology called Asana. That's something the team brought forward and said, we'd like to be able to use this. It gives us greater visibility across the different functions and roles within marketing, and it helps us keep pace with the volume and the velocity of marketing campaigns and programs we're executing against. So part of that is really just making sure we've got the right tools in place and the right level of visibility. Now, part of that is really establishing a culture that's based on very strong communication. Again, we are all remote, so because we do have sort of a functional delineation across the marketing team from content, demand gen, and ops. We want to make sure that we weren't creating any silos. So we want to make sure that information was flowing freely across the organization. We find time to connect based on video. So we're establishing a personal connection through FaceTime. So there's a series of meetings, whether it's our team meetings, individual one-on-ones, or sort of small group meetings amongst the team members that are really helping to facilitate that process. And what we do regular kind of a monthly check-in, and certainly a quarterly check-in. What's worked, what's not working, where can we find greater efficiencies for improvement? And the team is focused on that. If we notice that, for instance, with our webinar development process, it was a little clunky. There's kind of what I call gum in the gears, going from ideation to execution to measurement and reporting. The team brought forward some ideas on how we can better improve that process. So it's sort of it's always in the back of our mind. We do a lot. We've got a highly focused team, but it's not a big team. So we have to be very focused in terms of the efficiency and effectiveness of the resources that we're using to put forward. So process is always kind of front and center for us.
Okay, that's great. So tell me a little bit about your MarTech stack and what are some of the things that you're doing to scale?
Yeah, it's the marketing stack of ProSites is sort of in development. What I mean by that is we historically were a Microsoft CRM shop and no marketing automation. Right? We were using MailChimp and a couple of ad hoc communication tools with really no appreciable connection between the two platforms and no appreciable insights coming or data that's coming in from those systems to help us drive action from those insights. So in August of 2016, we actually made the decision to cut over to Salesforce. Did quite a bit of due diligence on a marketing automation platform and selected Marketo. I'm partially biased. I've been a Marketo client. I think I was one of the first 50 Marketo clients, so I have a lot of stick time with that application. And we turned those two systems on in August of 16. So the last 6, maybe 7 months, it's really about operationalization and then optimization in terms of the stack. What we've got connected into it so far is Citrix for the GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar applications. We run quite a few digital events in the course of any given month or quarter, so it was important to make sure that those systems were tied together and we were getting the right data from them. The most recent add in the last probably 2.5 weeks has been an application called Magic Robot. So they kind of work within that same space as Full Circle Insights or Burst. And really the important thing there is it's giving us much better contact, campaign, opportunity attribution from a multi-touch perspective. We got some very interesting models, some weighting models that make sense for our business. So that's been snapped in there most recently. And sort of the two things that are in front of us from a stack perspective, we're looking at Insights Squared, largely to benefit our sales leadership, both in terms of pipeline management, forecasting, but there's some interesting modules in there for demand gen we're going to take a look at as well. So that's kind of in the evaluation process. And then I think just ahead of that for us is probably looking at Ringlead or some other type of a deduping technology. We really want to make sure that the data that's coming through the front door, or anything that the sales team might add, is it's good, it's clean. The data itself is trustworthy. We're not putting duplicates into the system. We're in a very fortunate situation, having cut over from Microsoft CRM to Salesforce. We started with a pretty clean data set, which I know is sort of an enviable position for a lot of sales leaders and marketing leaders. And so we want to really maintain the kind of the health and the integrity of that data set. So we're going to make sure that what's coming through the front door is good and clean as well. So I've got experience with a lot of different technologies over my lifetime. I think we've got a more expansive technology or MarTech roadmap in front of us. But those are a few of the applications that we're looking at here in the near term.
Okay. And then just in terms of lifecycle engagement, do you have or have you set up programs and campaigns that go through the full customer lifecycle instead of just at the top of the funnel? I mean, how are you guys approaching that?
Yeah, we do. We have, when I talked about pipeline growth and close one business, we're really focused on net new business or new client acquisition, but we also have some benchmarks that we just have started to put in place in terms of how does marketing measure its impact on existing business and existing clients, because we actually do a fair bit of marketing to our installed base, both to drive upsell and cross-sell, but also just continued education and reaffirming pro sites and CPA site solutions thought leadership position in the industry. So we are looking, we actually just recently launched new client welcome nurtures. So that's one of the ways that we're sort of capturing people at the point of engagement, welcoming them to the family, making sure that they have access to some important resources to help them get out of the gate using our tools and our technology and engaging with our team. And then we ongoing newsletters and other events that would be meaningful and interesting to our existing clients. We're sending that into the installed base as well, leveraging the same technology stack and the same types of marketing best practices that we do to acquire new clients. And then kind of beyond that, we're taking a look at, we leverage Net Promoter as one of our tools or methodologies, if you will, just to make sure we're keeping our fingers on the pulse of the installed base and their satisfaction with our products and our services. We're doing periodic annual surveys in terms of brand assessment and sort of industry trends, just to make sure that we're again keeping pace with what's going on with our current client base and making sure that we're keeping those retention rates up. So we look at them just a little bit differently, but from a best practices and a technology standpoint, we treat them just like we do our existing clients.
Well, as usual, Ken, you've got an incredible handle on things. So.
I feel like it. It feels like it's, there's always something sort of slipping through the cracks a little bit. But I think we've got a good roadmap. We've got a good playbook that we're executing against, and really happy to be in the position that I'm in. Always headroom to do more and do it better. But I feel like we're in a pretty good spot at the moment.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Jeff.
You bet.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Ken.